Welcome to the Personal Development Mastery Podcast. I'm 𝗁𝗁𝗀𝗄𝗯𝗍 and my mission is to inspire you to grow, stand out, and take action towards the next level of your life. I interview leaders, authors, successful entrepreneurs, spiritual teachers, exceptional people who will inspire you to improve your life. Tune in for 2 episodes each week and make sure you subscribe to get them as soon as they are released. In today's show, I am delighted to speak with Dr. Stephanie Zgraggen. Stephanie, you are a chiropractor, a functional medicine practitioner, and certified clinical nutritionist that's been in private practice over 15 years now. You are also an author and leading expert in women's hormones and health, and your mission is to empower women with the knowledge and skills to balance their bodies and feel their best so they can transform their lives and fulfill their mission. Stephanie, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with me today.
Thank you, Agi. I'm so grateful to be here and have this conversation with you today.
So am I. Stephanie, shall we start with a little bit of background, a little bit of context? And I would actually like to start by asking you from your story, what was your why, the reason why you became this person and doing what you're doing today? So take us back and paint the picture for us.
Yes, this is going to be a picture that goes back almost 20 years at this point. But when I was in chiropractic school, it's very grueling work. You know, you're going to school 40 hours. I was in my senior year at that time. I was preparing to graduate. I was also studying for all the board exams we have to do to be licensed after you graduate and actually become a doctor. I was also engaged. So I was planning a wedding. I was planning to move across the country. I was planning opening up a practice. All these things were going on in my life in a very short 6-month period of time. So I would say I was very, very stressed. And that stress was manifesting itself in my body. And the way that it manifested was in changes in my menstrual cycle. It literally got to the point where every month when that time came around, I was in a lot of pain. I was in bed. I couldn't do anything. And then it continued to get worse to the point that every single month I would have this terrible migraine, wake up with nausea. I was vomiting. It was just no place to be. It was not fun at all. And I think the breaking point for me at that point was when I woke up one night with night sweats, hot flashes, night sweats at 23 years old. Right. That is not normal at all. And, so typically we go the traditional route where we go to the gynecologist, that for the ladies, that's where we go. And I had a male doctor who did some blood work and said all my blood work was, quote, fine. And everything looked good and this was normal. And I said, absolutely not. Having to literally change my life around and having this control my life and my every facet of it during that time was not normal. And his options were, well, we can either give you birth control or we can start cutting out body parts. And being in school, more in a traditional natural type school, that just didn't sit well. It just didn't feel right either. And so that took me on a journey to really discover what else is out there. This traditional doctor that I went to, he had no answers for me. He said everything was fine. He said my lab work was normal, but this is not normal. So that's where I really discovered functional medicine and what that really means. And, for people that don't know what functional medicine is, it really is when we look at going to the doctor many times, they're looking to see if you have a disease and it's kind of black or white. You either do or you don't. There's no gray area of, well, you're not feeling your best, so let's work on that. And in functional medicine, they look at lab work a bit differently. Instead of very big ranges, they're much more focused in the ranges on your blood work and lab values that you do. And when I did my own labs, I found out that I was a hot mess. My estrogen levels were high, my progesterone levels were low, my stress hormones were out of balance. And from there I said, okay, it was nice to finally have an answer, to know that it wasn't in my head, because for so many women and patients that I see, if they don't get an answer right away, the doctor literally just pushes an antidepressant prescription at them. And that's kind of the options. So from there, I wanted to go and research, what can I do naturally to fix this? So over the course of a year, I looked at different foods, herbs, non-traditional routes to take to balance my hormones out. And now, 20 years later, I can tell you I don't have any pain, no more migraines, no more nausea, no more vomiting. And I was in the chiropractic field for a number of years. I've really stepped into just working with patients on a functional medicine, clinical nutrition level for the last, I'd say, 8 years now only. So that's my why. I fix myself. And then once you fix one and you fix a friend, then the rest kind of tumble in, so to speak. So that's what I've been doing here in clinical practice for the last number of years. And that is my why.
What I find, and it's inevitable to discuss this in this conversation, because I also have a big interest in, it is the approach of Western medicine in solving a health issue. And I'm mainly talking about the chronic problems, or the all these situations that there is no obvious or clear reason why. So what you were saying about, you can either have medication, birth control, which will change God knows what in the body, or the other is to have surgery and cut off body parts. There are both, unfortunately, very common, if not the only ones, but most physicians, most doctors would only utilize this approach to solving a health problem. And I wanted your comment on that on a little bit broader scale, and then we will go down to more detail about stress and what you're really working with. But tell me a little bit, what do you think? Is there any solution to all this dogma of Western medicine?
Yes, and I think what I've seen over the last decade, let's say, is that more and more people aren't accepting here's the pill or here's the surgery as the answer. They're wanting a better answer and a better choice, so they're starting to kind of search out. And this is why I wanted to have our discussion, just to kind of get the word out there that there are other practitioners and different types of providers that do, other things that might not be the traditional route. We do the same lab test, but we look at it differently. We have different options for patients. A good example is just yesterday I had a phone call with a woman who has a thyroid condition. And when I looked at her labs, I'm like, actually, has your doctor told you it's an autoimmune case now? And she's like, oh no. This poor woman has an autoimmune case, but the biggest challenge with traditional medicine is they're not going to treat her any differently now that she has an autoimmune thyroid disease versus if her thyroid numbers were, her lab numbers were out of balance. So there's so much that I can do from a nutritional, from an herbal perspective to help her with her immune system in that autoimmune capacity now too, to help with that balance. So she was floored after our appointment because she's like, wow, my doctor doesn't talk about this. They don't know these things. And I think in America, sometimes the doctor's hands are tied. They have very quick appointments. You might see your doctor 5, maybe 10 minutes, and they're just kind of going through an algorithm of if this, give this, if that, then that, and they don't really have the time to spend with their patients. For me, I've made it a point to really make sure I give that time. My new patient appointment's an hour long with the patient, and then follow-ups are about a half hour. So we're really having the time to dive deep to really go with things. And this isn't to say too, because I know I mentioned symptoms. I get symptoms are no fun for anyone. So I also want to make sure I control symptoms, but there's a point where you could use herbs or supplements or food as drugs. There are certain, nutrition and certain supplements you could take to cover your symptoms, but then as soon as you take that away, the symptom comes back. So what I try to do too, in functional medicine and in my practice is really looking at the why. Why do you have that problem? And really focusing on balancing that whole system out. Because if that system's balanced, you no longer have to take whether it's a drug or an herb or a supplement for your heartburn, let's say. If your digestive system's working right, you don't have indigestion. So little things like that go a long way with the patients.
They're little things, but they're very big things, because just labeling something, this disease, or labeling this person as, a diabetic or something, That's not a solution. You putting everyone in the same box and providing the same treatment. It's and I'm glad that there are more and more now these other approaches which are getting more and more well known, and people are more open to question their doctor if what the doctor says doesn't really go down very well.
Yeah.
There is also always a plan B, and you can look online and find different approaches as a first step. Stephanie, shall we talk a bit more specifically about stress, because it is something that I mean, there are very few people that I know that they say they don't have it. I don't know if it's true or not, but
absolutely,
it is something that in modern society, with the way that we operate, we all have it to some extent anyway, some more than others. So let's talk a little bit first about stress and how it affects us, and mainly in terms of, let's say, our productivity, our everything that we do, really, our day-to-day life. Because it's subtle sometimes, isn't it? You don't necessarily call it stress, but it's under the surface.
Yes, and I think we need to maybe give a definition of stress and the kind of categories that it comes with, because you're right. We think of stress as, I'm stressed at work, or I had a fight with a spouse, or my kids are driving me crazy. Like, we think of those stresses, but it can be so much deeper than that too. We've got physical stress. If you're working out all the time, you're training for a marathon, you're putting physical stress on the body. We can talk about mental and emotional stress. You got in that fight with your spouse, or your kids are, summertime, kids are home, you're driving you nuts. We've got that type of stress. We have biochemical stress. If your body's out of balance, that puts more biochemical stress on the body. So a good example of that is if you're someone that's taking 10 different medications, you're definitely putting more biochemical stress on your liver, because your liver has to process all of those medicines through the body. And then finally, we have a lot of, I call it chemical toxicity stress. Here in America, we have toxins everywhere. I know it's sometimes not as bad in other countries, but between pollution, all the chemicals we put in the foods, now we're adding 5G everywhere, so we're getting all of these electromagnetic stresses and everything else. So all of those combined, I think, are creating this perfect storm of additional stress on the body and additional toxins that we as humans never had to deal with to this degree and this level. So one thing that I'm always talking to my patients about is how do we either minimize those chemicals, poisons, toxins, stressors in the body, and how can we either just eliminate them completely, or how do we help manage the processing of those? And that's everybody, male, female, 5 years old, 95 years old, it doesn't matter. We're all experiencing these types of issues in today's world and today's society.
How could we start identifying these stressors? Because I suppose they're very different from person to person. You mentioned some examples already, but is it something that, how would one go more into realizing that?
Yeah, absolutely. We could look at it from kind of the external route. For your audience, just start thinking of, do I live close to a new cell phone tower? Has things changed once I've introduced something to my life? If I introduced a new medication, have I been tired, or has my sleep changed, or digestion changed since that? So little things like that. The easiest things we can do is start cleaning up our diet, trying to eat as minimally processed foods as possible, drinking clean water, avoiding just any kind of chemicals. Even our, toiletry items have a lot of chemicals in them that can be, they're called endocrine disruptors, but what that means is they mess with your hormones. So really looking for cleaner products that have the least amount of ingredients is a great place to just start that cleaning out process. So I think that's one way, the external. The next way is the internal factors. How is your body responding to this? Because our body is very great at giving us signs and symptoms. Some of them are subtle. Sometimes we think they're just a process of aging when there may be other things. And I'll give this to your audience. If anybody emails me after the show, I have actually a questionnaire that I can email them back that's literally looking at how these different factors affect the body. So I'm happy to shoot them that questionnaire, and they can do it at home to just assess where the areas in their life might be where they could be cleaning up some of these toxins and chemicals. But looking at different fatigue levels, at every age of our lives, we should wake up from sleep feeling refreshed and have energy to get through the day, and then nicely fall asleep at night. If you're tired and wired at night, if you are dragging like 10 o'clock in the morning, if you feel like I can't literally get started till I have that third cup of coffee, those are all just some of the symptoms that the glands that handle our stress aren't working at their peak performance.
Mm-hmm. You said something, and I'm going to digress just a tiny bit here.
Sure.
That our body is very good at giving us the signs and symptoms. Unfortunately, we are not very good at listening to what it says. It's very accurate once we understand how to listen to it. So any tip on that, on listening to what our body tells us?
Yeah, I think it's getting quiet with yourself to really be able to listen. Back to the issue with the whole doctor. If you do go to the doctor and don't get an answer, and that little, nagging feeling in your gut just doesn't feel right, get the second opinion. Go for it. By all means, I recommend all my patients definitely get a second opinion, ask other people. I mean, even with me, I say, heck, research what I'm giving you, because I give my patients articles to read, things to do. I said, please research it all, because I know that if you've done your homework and you feel confident with what you're doing, one, you're even going to be more compliant of a patient to do it. But two, your success level is going to be higher as well. So I think that's one piece of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. The other thing is just learning to be a detective of your own body. So I tell my patients when they first come and see me, I like to call myself the Nancy Drew of nutrition. I think Nancy Drew is probably copyrighted, so I can't really make myself that. But I really feel like I'm a detective of the body, because with each patient, two different people might come in with the exact same symptom, but the reason why they have those symptoms are completely different reasons. So their treatment plans are going to be two different treatment plans to help them. And both treatment plans will work, so it's customizing things for the patients. It's really being able to be your own detective. And so how can you be your own detective is usually the next question, is really start looking for subtle symptoms that you have, or little things that I would call them the nagging symptoms, like, oh, my digestive system is always off. Or so then start trying to look for patterns. Is it always a certain time of the day? Is it after certain food groups? Some things we can start looking at from that perspective. And then if you can't figure it out yourself, that's when it might be time to bring in a professional to kind of help you, wade through the weeds, so to speak, and figure it out more specifically.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for this answer. And looking for patterns, and rather, it's something that is, I think it's very important, because when you have something often, a symptom, often, many people would tend to really not realize it, that it is normal, or they would go to the doctor again and get something to treat the actual symptom of it, and carry on chronically with, and I'm generalizing now, but it is, when we realize that every time when is it that I feel bloated, for example? It is every time I have this. It's a great first step. That's how I look at it.
No, absolutely. And the other thing too is if you always also, let's say for pain, for instance, or headaches, if every time you have a headache, you take a pain medicine, then it's hard when we have a conversation to give me the answers that I want, because I'm going to be asking you, how long does it last? How severe does it get? Do you get nauseous, issues with like light sensitivity, hearing sensitivity? And if you take something that, even though the process, the physical process is still going on in the body, you just have cut off your body's ability to feel it, you really can't answer the questions. So really just getting more in tune with the body, I think is really helpful to practitioners like me, because the more data that you can bring to me as a practitioner, definitely the more specific I can be in creating a game plan and a protocol that I can give you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, getting in tune with the body, as you said it. And as you know, unfortunately, many people are conditioned to find a solution elsewhere rather than, and you mentioned the example with the headache. I think it's a wonderful example, because most people, if not every single person, has had that experience. The body is trying to tell you something just by drowning it with a painkiller. Especially if that happens over and over again, it's really not the solution. You're just hiding the problem under the carpet. There is one other thing that, and I'm going to again change direction a little bit, that I wanted to discuss, and that is nutrition, and more specifically supplements, and you mentioned them earlier. So in a nutshell, because of obviously we would be talking for hours just for this particular topic, but I want just to touch on this, in particularly the supplements. Is there a right or wrong? Is it something that needs to be highly customized for each person? Are there some general guidelines? How should one approach this supplement topic?
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's a question I get a lot, as you can imagine. I think that kind of where we are in today's world with environment stressors, chemicals, it's probably beneficial for everyone to take some sort of multivitamin. Now, when I say multivitamin, the next question is, well, how do I find a good one? And really just across the board, find one made from food, because, we have not been smart enough in a lab to play God yet. So we think of a vitamin as one thing, but truly it is hundreds, if not thousands of little bits and pieces and phytochemicals all put together to make up that vitamin complex. And the only way you're going to truly get the full vitamin complex is from the foods that it comes from. So, read the label, make sure it says it's made from beets and broccoli and mushrooms and, citrus and food. So food first is where we're going to get most of our nutrition.
Do you mind, sorry, Stephanie, do you mind giving me an example of what you were saying? Let's say, for example, vitamin D or D3, which is very, very common, hopefully. Is there a chemical version and a made from food version?
Yes. Every single vitamin is going to have a chemically made version and a whole food version. So really, once again, looking on the label to see the ingredients, you want to see different foods listed out. For vitamin D, one of the things I use a lot of is cod liver oil. That's going to be higher in vitamin A and vitamin D, naturally occurring in the foods for my patients. So that's a fantastic source. Vitamin C, you're going to find it's really high in mushrooms. It's high in rose hips. It's high in different citrus foods. So looking to make sure that those types of foods are in the products that you're choosing, I think is a great place to start.
And if we wanted to take it one more step and ask, is there something in the supplements when we read the ingredients we should stay away from? Because there are many which are... Yep. I'm not a specialist at all, but I have been taking supplements for years because I believe that they're necessary. And, there are some... I'm trying to remember. I can't remember what it is. There are some very, very common ingredients in some of the vitamins.
They usually will put fillers in, and that's in order just to
that's the word I was looking for.
I figured that was it. I read your mind. They have to, a lot of times, be able to make the tablets stay together so they don't just crumble. Yes. So there's usually fillers that are in there. So finding the products with the least amount of ingredients, the ones that are food. I know you're in the UK, and in the UK you guys have much stricter laws in food, which is nice. I wish over here in America we'd put more laws into effect. But I know you have listeners from all over the world. So really making sure, I've seen so much junk in vitamins, it's crazy. I would avoid any supplements that have anything artificial, like artificial sweeteners. They'll put in these powders now that I don't think are good, because we know that some of those artificial sweeteners ruin your gut flora. So it actually makes your digestive system worse. So that's not a good thing. A lot of them will also put in different artificial dyes and colorings. So if you see any of that in any of the supplements, I would avoid those too. It's going to be pretty hard if you're doing tablets or capsules to avoid some of the fillers like the calcium stearates and those kind of things. So that's kind of, you take the good with a bit of the, filler, so to speak. Yeah. But obviously real food comes first, and then just try to take out as much the junk and the artificial stuff as possible when it comes to your supplements.
Yes. I'm sure you know very well that finding the good quality food is difficult, or it can be difficult. We have an abundance of food around us. We can just go to the supermarket and get whatever we want instantly, but that doesn't mean that it's nutritious as well. Even the fruits and vegetables, which we would expect, or let's say the previous generations would expect that they are enough to give the nutritional value.
Yes.
Now they are grown in a way that, yes, it's not exactly the maximum nutrition, or the nutrition the food used to have like 50 or 100 years ago, the same food, I mean.
Yeah, it's definitely different with farming, with the introduction of GMOs and genetically modified organisms. Using the pesticides and the fungicides, it kills the little bugs on the plant, so then the roots don't grow as deep. We could do a whole hour just on farming and how that's changed the nutrient content of the food supply. So yes, I always say if you can afford and buy organically grown produce, by all means, like that's going to have the most nutritional value. Buying locally too, from local farmers, because they will have picked the food closer to its ripeness. Because if we pick the food's not ripe and then it ripens in a truck somewhere, we're definitely not getting as much, mineral content in there. And here's a fun thing we could have your listeners do too. Try to think back to when the last time you had a really vivid dream that you remembered. And think if you can remember, if it was last night, great. If you really can't remember the last time you had a really nice, vivid dream, to me, I learned this a number of years ago, and it was fascinating. And usually that is lack of some of those minerals. So I experienced this during that time frame that I shared my story, that I wasn't really dreaming or remembering my dreams. So I ended up putting myself on a food-based liquid mineral. Oh my goodness. After that, my dreams were so vivid. I was traveling to new places in my dreams, and dreaming is important because that is really where we work out a lot of our subconsciousness. So if you haven't been remembering dreams, think about maybe adding a good multi-mineral, a food-based multi-mineral, and see what happens.
Actually, I don't remember my dreams. I don't remember the last time I mean, I don't know if it is only a matter of minerals. It's very rare. It would be once or twice a year that I will remember a dream. I know that I see them because, when you track your sleep, it goes into REM, but I have no recollection whatsoever. So which minerals is that? I should try.
Just like a basic multi-mineral would be good. So I like a lot of times the liquid ones work really well for that. But try it, and please email me, Augie, after you try that. I want to see if you like to experiment.
Absolutely, we'll do that. There's something else I want to quickly touch on as well. You mentioned earlier, briefly, we were talking about something else, that something like not all the symptoms are because we're getting older, and I think that's something I would like to have a comment on, because we do, especially after 40s, I suppose, and 50s even more, take some things like, oh, well, this is meant to happen because I'm getting older, and I don't agree with that in principle, but I would like your thoughts on that.
Yes, I think that as we get older, we learn to compartmentalize our energy a bit differently. I feel like that's what I've done personally. But I still feel like we should wake up feeling good every day. We should have the energy we want through the day. We shouldn't be exhausted. We shouldn't wake up feeling that we need more sleep, And I'm seeing this more and more, not just with people that are older, but even people in their 20s, their early 20s are coming in like, I'm exhausted. So I think it can happen at any time. I think there's a number of factors for that, whether it's your body is really struggling to just keep that balance together, and maybe medications you're on, if you have a really poor diet where you're just not feeding the system enough to create that energy in those little energy powerhouses of your cells. So I don't think that we have to succumb to I'm old, so now I just have to sit here and do nothing. I think we can definitely live very active, healthy, and fun lives, just our entire lives.
Thank you for that. And it's it's great to look at this particular thing from a different point of view, because it doesn't mean that when you are in your 60s or in your 70s or in your 80s, and I might go even further because there have been examples of people so that they are very active, they're healthy, and it can be done by many of us if we get into a different, generally, lifestyle. Stephanie, I would also like to ask you to tell us a little bit more about specifically your mission to empower women with regaining this balance. So would you like to share some of your thoughts of that, about your own personal mission? And
Sure.
please feel free to address the female audience here in this. 100%, I'm sure the gentlemen won't mind for this part of the conversation.
Yes. Well, I work mostly with women only because I think they read my story online and they resonate with that, because they say, oh, that's me. Can you help? I also do work with men and children too. So I guess this could be across the board. But really, my goal is to help any patient that comes to me, woman, man, or child, to really find out what is going on in the body. Like I said, play that detective. If you're not having, a lot of times I just don't feel like myself. I was feeling good to a certain point and something happened. And ever since then is usually kind of the phrase they tell me. Ever since then, I just haven't felt like myself, whether it's been they haven't had enough energy, their hormones have felt off, their menstrual cycles a mess, they're having trouble getting pregnant, they're tired and fatigued all the time, and they just kind of don't know what to do about it. That's the realm that I like to play in. Digestive issues, all of those things and issues with patients, where I really like to dive deep to figure out the why. Why are these things occurring, and you're having these issues, and really help them build their system up enough to where they feel like their old selves again. They've got the energy they want, because when you feel your best, you can then fulfill your mission, whatever your mission is. When you don't feel good, it's huge. I've been working with a woman that does a lot of spiritual work, and it was really interesting because she came in as a patient, a lot of fatigue, a lot of challenges that she personally had. And over the course of just a few months with working, kind of clearing out some of that, working on her adrenal glands, which are her stress hormones, because she was a very stressed out woman. And I said, you are going to be able to connect to source and channel better when we start balancing your body, because when your hormones are balanced, your adrenals are balanced, your thyroid's balanced, you have more energy to kind of reach yourself out and your energy out to do what you do. And she started noticing it, and she was floored at how much the biochemical and physical changes we made helped with her spiritual connection. So it goes across all boards. A lot of times we talk of the physicality of biology and your anatomy and everything else, but this goes so much further. And I didn't realize this when I first got into practice. And it was when I did a group detox program where I take patients through as a group and put them through a program where they clean out all the chemicals out of their body. It's like a month-long process. And the first time I did this, a gentleman who was forced to come because of his wife, he didn't want to be there, but he's like, oh, my wife's doing it, I'm going to support her. But afterwards he came up to me and he said, I was not expecting this, Stephanie, but I feel so much better. And I already thought I felt good. He was in his mid-30s. He's like, I already thought I felt good, but I feel so much better now. He's like, I have more motivation to be a better dad and a better wife, or a better husband to my wife. And I was floored because that was the first time anyone had expressed back to me that way. And ever since then, it's been profound, the changes people get once their body is working like a machine, the machine that it's supposed to work as.
Optimally, yes. Yeah. Absolutely. We get many people, we get used to operating at a lower level, and we accept that this is our energy level, either because that's who I am or because I'm in my 40s or whatever. And that's not the truth at all.
Well, and our biology is designed to do that too, in essence. Patients see that as their new normal. And I'm like, no, that's not the new normal. And when we kick it up, I'm like, that's your new normal. I always tell the women that I work with, we're designed to forget. That's why I ask a lot of questions on our visits so I can keep up, because I always say, if women didn't forget pain and things, they'd only have one kid. So our bodies are designed to forget things and remember the good stuff.
Yes.
A lot of times.
Awesome. Stephanie, I would also like to ask you some quick fire questions to start wrapping this conversation up. And my first one always is, what does personal development mean to you?
Ooh, that's a good one. Personal development means to me really striving to be the best that you can be, whatever that looks like. So for some people, it's going to be more of the spiritual route. For some, it's going to be more the education route. It's just feeling good where you're at and always kind of challenging yourself to improve and be a better person.
Mm-hmm. And let's say you could go back in time and meet the 18-year-old Stephanie.
Oh, goodness.
What's one piece of advice you would give her?
Don't marry him. He was one of my best learning experiences, though. So I don't know that I would say that, but now the Stephanie now says don't marry him. No, but I think the 18-year-old Stephanie would want to have a little bit more wisdom in finding the balance earlier, because I didn't have that balance. I think that's what created my hormonal issues, because I was that type A person that did everything well and fast and hard, and it was go, go, go. And I think 18-year-old Stephanie would have said, you don't have to rush everything. You can slow down and take your time. And don't marry him.
I get there is usually sometimes I get a humoristic response like buy Bitcoin or don't marry him or something like
buy
that.
Buy Bitcoin, that's a good one.
But it is, certainly is. But
that would have been an awesome one.
Take your time and be more slow and more present in your life. I think that's it's something that can take you a long way. Emerging from this conversation we had today, if you were to give to the listener one actionable item, something they can take home and implement, maybe starting today or tomorrow morning, what would you advise?
Do more self-care. I think that's the thing that the patients that I see, they're stressed out, and when you really look at what they're doing for themselves, many of them are putting everyone else before them. And I think if we do more self-care, whatever that means to people, whether it's getting a massage or doing meditation or going to the ocean for a swim, whatever that means to you, that's just going to calm your body and center yourself. So I think that's probably the one thing that we could do. And
do you want to expand a little bit on the self-care topic? You
Sure.
mentioned some examples, but many people are not used to it, as you said. And women, I think, even more than men, they give more than, and eventually there's nothing left for themselves.
Yeah, I think self-care there needs to be a whole paradigm shift, because we've always thought that things are selfish. If we, for example, say we're going to a party and we're tapped out of energy at the end of the day, and we don't want to go to the party, even though we told a friend or a family member, we'll be there. We feel obligated to go. It's okay to call and say, hey, I'm going to sit this one out. So that is a form of self-care. Another form might be making sure you're taking care of your body, getting regular body work, whether it's Reiki or massage or chiropractic adjustments, whatever you need physically. Emotionally, it might be, if you need a therapist, talking to a therapist, going out with, some of your guy friends or girlfriends to have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine to just kind of vent the day, whatever it means to you. It can be so many different things. For some of my moms that have like a lot of children, it might be going in the closet and just crying for a minute just to get away and just have a moment of peace. So reading a book, anything can be self-care, but it's literally just being conscious of making a choice of, I'm going to do this for me because this is what I need right now, and being okay with that and not feeling the guilt that might come with that. That is true self-care, I think.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I was looking to hear some examples, and you covered quite a few of them. So thank you very much. Stephanie, I understand that you have a free gift for the listeners as well about the morning routine and how they can utilize that. So would you like to share that with us?
Yes, absolutely. I've created just this ebook that has a number of little things that you can start doing in the morning, because we mentioned the toxins and the stress and all those different things, how that plays a role in the body. And there's a number of little things you can add into your morning routine that will help clear that daily from your body. So if you want to just take little things that you can do to add to the morning routine to help out with that, this guidebook is going to be perfect. It has a bunch of different examples, but please don't think and stress out that you have to do all of them. Just pick maybe one or two that you want to do. It shouldn't add any more than 5 minutes to your morning. And everything in there is either free to do or you need a really inexpensive tool. So I've given all the details and how to find everything and how to do each of the different items in the routine. But have fun with that. I know you'll add the link to the show notes, I'm sure, so you can download it. It's a free download. Please use it. And that's my gift to the audience today.
Thank you. And I will actually also check it out myself. I haven't had the chance to look at it yet, because I'm very big on morning routines. I really think that if you, as Tim Ferriss says, if you win the morning, you win the day.
Absolutely.
So, how can people connect with you, Stephanie? Where would you direct them, apart from the ebook, which I will also put in the show notes?
Yeah, sure. Through my website's probably the best, because then you can read about me and all my services. I do work with patients all over the country and all over the world at this point, but it's 𝑑rZgraggen.com. I'm also all over social media, so I'm Googleable. So if you just put in my name, you will be able to find me.
Only challenge might be spelling the names. Do you want to spell it for us as well?
Yes, I can do the spelling. Yes, it is a fun one. So website is Dr. Zgraggen. That is 𝑑rZgraggen.com.
And I thought I had a difficult name. Is there anything that you really were hoping we discussed today and we completely missed it? I know that there have been a little bit of all over the place, but there were things that I really wanted to have your expert opinion about. But is there something else that you really wanted to share?
I think we covered everything that we needed to cover for the audience. I think it flowed great, and it's going to be everything they need to hear. So if they have any other questions, they most certainly can reach out, and I'll answer those for them for sure.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Stephanie, I want to thank you very much for your time, for sharing your expertise with us today. And I want to wish you all the very best with your mission in empowering women and really bringing this knowledge into more and more into the open, because I believe it's absolutely necessary. Mm-hmm. Any last parting words?
Just thank you so much, Agi, for your collaborating with me today. I really, really appreciate the time and attention you've given to the topic. And yeah, just very grateful for the time we've had to share today.
I hope you enjoyed listening. And I have a question for you. How would you like a blueprint to your personal development? If you sometimes think that there are so many different things out there you could do for your personal growth, but you're not sure on where to start or what's the next best step, if you'd like a blueprint to help you take control of your personal development, your focus, habits, confidence, and ultimately your time and energy, then you will love my online course, Essential Personal Development Blueprint. The link is in the show notes, or type bit.ly/Agis course, AGIS course. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in,